I'm sitting in the Pennsylvania State Medical Board hearing room, my hands trembling as I slide a manila folder across the mahogany table. The three board members look skeptical. Can't blame them really. Dr. Sterling, these are serious allegations, Dr. Williams says, adjusting his glasses. You're claiming your sister has been practicing family medicine with fraudulent credentials. I take a deep breath. Victoria forged her medical school transcripts. She's been treating patients for 3 years with a degree she never earned. The words taste bitter. I have documentation proving she failed out of medical school in 2018. The silence stretches. Board member Dr. Martinez flips through my evidence folder. Patient complaints, forged documents, near-death incidents. 3 years of my sister playing doctor while actual lives hung in the balance. This is your sister we're discussing, Dr. Williams emphasizes. Your own family member. Which makes this harder, not easier. My voice cracks slightly. Do you think I want to be here? Victoria has endangered dozens of patients. Mrs. Patterson nearly died from a misdiagnosed heart attack. The Hendricks baby was hospitalized for weeks because Victoria missed obvious signs of pneumonia. Dr. Martinez looks up from the files. How did you discover this fraud? Patient complaints kept reaching the hospital where I work. People saying Dr. Victoria Sterling seemed incompetent, basic medical knowledge gaps. I started investigating because I couldn't believe my accomplished sister was making such elementary mistakes. I pause, remembering that horrible moment of realization. Then I found out why. She wasn't making mistakes. She literally didn't know what she was doing. The room falls silent again. Dr. Williams makes notes. Dr. Martinez continues reading. The third board member, Dr. Foster, finally speaks. Dr. Sterling, if these allegations prove true, we're looking at criminal charges. Medical fraud, endangering patients, practicing without proper licensing. Are you prepared for the consequences this will have on your family? I think about Victoria's threats. Mom's tears, Dad's disappointment, the family dinners that will never happen again. I became a doctor to save lives, I say quietly. My sister has been risking them. Yes, I'm prepared. But this story really starts 15 years ago in our parents' basement, when Victoria first decided that my success was her biggest threat. The basement smelled like mildew and broken dreams. Victoria and I had claimed opposite corners as our study spaces during our pre-med years. She got the side with the window. I got the corner next to the water heater that kicked on every 20 minutes. Becca, have you seen my organic chemistry notes? Victoria called out one evening in 2010. She was sprawled across her desk, textbooks perfectly organized, highlighters arranged by color. Check your backpack, I mumbled, not looking up from my MCAT prep book. I'd been studying for 12 hours straight. Victoria had spent the afternoon getting her nails done. That should have been my first warning sign. Victoria never misplaced anything. She was methodical, precise, almost obsessively organized. But I was too exhausted to think clearly. The next morning, my laptop wouldn't start. Blue screen of death. 3 months of MCAT preparation files gone, my practice test scores, study schedules, everything. Oh no, that's terrible, Victoria said, peering over my shoulder. Did you back anything up? I hadn't, stupid mistake. Victoria offered to let me use her laptop, but somehow her files kept corrupting when I tried to save my work. Technical difficulties, she said. These things happen. The MCAT registration deadline was approaching fast. I'd planned to take it in August, but with my prep materials destroyed, I had to postpone until October. Victoria took hers in August and scored a 35. Mom and Dad threw her a celebration dinner. Don't worry, sweetie, Mom said, squeezing my shoulder. You'll do great in October. Victoria can help you study. Victoria smiled sweetly. Of course, we're sisters. But her help came with strings attached. She'd cancel our study sessions at the last minute. Important family obligations, she said, or she'd show up with wrong information claiming she'd misremembered certain concepts, just honest mistakes. The mail started disappearing around this time, not all of it, just specific pieces. My medical school application confirmations, interview scheduling letters. I'd call admissions offices, confused about missing deadlines. We sent that information weeks ago, they'd say. Check your mail more carefully. I found the rejection letters in Victoria's room by accident. She'd left her door open while showering. There they were, stacked neatly in her desk drawer. Rejection letters from Johns Hopkins, Harvard Penn, all addressed to me, all unopened. My hands shook as I read them, form letters mostly. But the Johns Hopkins one mentioned my failure to respond to our interview invitation. Interview invitation? I'd never received one. Victoria, I called out when I heard the shower stop. We need to talk. She emerged wrapped in a towel, looking genuinely surprised to see me holding the letters. Oh, those, she said casually. I was going to give them to you, I just thought. Maybe it would be easier if you didn't see them right away. You've been so stressed. These are federal crimes, Victoria, tampering with mail. Don't be dramatic, I was protecting you. She sat on her bed, still in the towel. Besides, you wouldn't have gotten in anyway, your grades aren't good enough. That stung because it was partially true. My GPA had suffered during the months of sabotage. Missed study sessions, corrupted files, constant stress. Victoria's was pristine. I'm telling Mom and Dad, I said. Tell them what, that you're paranoid and jealous because I'm succeeding? Victoria's voice stayed level, almost bored. They already think you're struggling, this will just confirm it. She was right. At dinner that night, Dad bragged about Victoria's medical school acceptances, 3 prestigious programs, full scholarships. Mom beamed with pride. Rebecca's still waiting to hear back, Victoria said helpfully. The process is so competitive. I sat there, knowing I had interview invitations sitting in my sister's desk drawer, and said nothing. That's when I realized Victoria wasn't just competing with me. She was actively destroying my chances to ensure her own success. The game had changed. I just didn't know how much worse it would get. By spring 2011, Victoria had already chosen her medical school. University of Pittsburgh, full ride early acceptance. The family celebrated at Romano's, our favorite Italian place. Dad ordered champagne. Mom cried happy tears. We're so proud of you, sweetheart, Dad said, raising his glass. Dr. Victoria Sterling has a nice ring to it. I sat there picking at my pasta, waiting for someone to ask about my applications. Nobody did. Victoria had successfully painted me as the struggling sister, the one who couldn't quite keep up. Rebecca will figure it out, Mom said when I finally brought it up. Everyone has their own timeline. My timeline was being sabotaged daily. Victoria had escalated beyond mail theft. She'd started spreading rumors in our pre-med study group about my academic dishonesty. Nothing concrete, just whispered concerns about my sudden grade improvements. I heard Rebecca might have cheated on the biochemistry final, she told Sarah Martinez during what she thought was a private conversation. I was in the bathroom stall, listening to my reputation crumble. That doesn't sound like her, Sarah said. I know, right? But she's been so desperate lately. The pressure really gets to some people. When I finally got into Temple University's medical program a year later, the celebration was muted. Victoria was already finishing her first year at Pitt, earning honors in every course. My acceptance felt like a consolation prize. Temple's a good school, Victoria said at dinner. Not as prestigious as Pitt, but solid. You should be proud. The backhanded compliment stung, but I was too relieved to care. Medical school at last. I could finally escape Victoria's shadow. Wrong again. Victoria made friends quickly at Pitt. Brilliant, connected friends who had siblings and cousins throughout the medical community. She'd casually mention my struggles during their study sessions, painting herself as the concerned older sister. My sister Rebecca is having such a hard time at Temple, she'd say. I worry about her. The workload is really overwhelming her. These conversations had consequences. Dr. Peterson, my anatomy professor, pulled me aside after class one day. Rebecca, I've heard some concerning things about your academic performance, he said gently. Are you struggling with the material? I was actually doing well, but Victoria's whisper campaign had reached even Temple's faculty. Someone at a medical conference had mentioned concerns about that Sterling girl who might be in over her head. I'm maintaining a B+ average, I said, confused. That's good to hear. Sometimes rumors get exaggerated, just keep working hard. Rumors about me, spread by my own sister. The worst part was Victoria's fake concern whenever we talked. She'd call every few weeks, voice dripping with sisterly worry. How are you holding up, Becca? I know medical school can be really challenging for some people. I'm fine, Victoria. Good, good. If you ever need help, just ask. I have connections now, people who could give you advice about managing the workload. Managing the workload, like I was some struggling student who needed extra help. By third year, I was juggling 3 part-time jobs. Victoria had a full scholarship and a generous allowance from our parents. She posted photos from exotic medical conferences. I delivered pizzas between rotations. Rebecca's really building character, she told Mom. I'd just returned from a 36-hour shift. All that hard work will make her appreciate success more, Victoria said. Victoria's always been wise beyond her years, Mom replied. Then came residency applications, when her sabotage turned criminal. She hacked my ERAS account, altering my personal statement, adding typos, misrepresenting research, changing my specialty to family medicine, her own. I found out 2 weeks before the deadline. System glitch, Victoria said. You should apply to less competitive programs. Family medicine is very rewarding. Despite rewriting everything in 72 hours, the damage was done. I matched into a preliminary surgery year in rural Pennsylvania. Victoria matched into her first choice at Penn. At match day, she hugged me. You never gave up even when things got difficult. She'd ruined my chances and cast herself as my supportive sister, and it worked. 5 years later, I'd clawed my way into a legit surgical residency. Victoria had opened her own family medicine practice in Millfield. Doctor Victoria Sterling, Family Medicine. Mom sent pictures of the ribbon cutting, gushed on calls. Meanwhile, I worked 80-hour weeks learning trauma surgery under Dr. Rodriguez. Finally, I was building something she couldn't touch. Then came Mrs. Patterson, chest pain misdiagnosed as anxiety by Victoria. She was having a heart attack, given Xanax, now suffering permanent damage. Dr. Sterling said it was just stress, she whispered. Then the Hendricks baby, severe pneumonia called just a cold. Victoria had checked her phone more than the baby's lungs. He nearly died. I thought she was just manipulative. Now I realized she was dangerous. 2 cases could be coincidence, but then came Tommy Morrison, the teenager with appendicitis that Victoria had diagnosed as growing pains. Sarah Kim, the college student whose obvious UTI had been dismissed as stress-related symptoms. I started keeping track. Every patient from Millfield who came through our ER seemed to have a story about Victoria's incompetence. Basic diagnoses missed, obvious symptoms ignored, dangerous medications prescribed inappropriately. Dr. Rodriguez, I said during one of our morning rounds, I'm seeing a pattern of misdiagnoses from a family practice in Millfield. Multiple patients, serious conditions missed. He frowned. That's concerning. Which practice? Sterling Family Medicine. Sterling, any relation to you? I hesitated. My sister. Dr. Rodriguez studied my face carefully. Rebecca, that's a serious allegation. Are you sure you're being objective? Was I? Maybe I was seeing patterns that weren't there. Maybe years of resentment toward Victoria were clouding my judgment. But then came the night that changed everything. I was working late reviewing patient files when Janet Morrison knocked on my office door. Janet was a nurse at Millfield Community Hospital, someone I'd known since childhood. Rebecca, I need to talk to you about something, she said, looking nervous. It's about your sister. What about her? Janet closed the door and sat down. I've been working at the hospital for 15 years. I've seen a lot of doctors come and go, but Victoria. Something's not right. She pulled out a folder. I've been documenting incidents, patients coming in after seeing her, basic medical knowledge she seems to lack. Janet, why are you showing me this? Because I think your sister is dangerous, and I think she's been faking her way through medicine for years. I stared at the documentation, case after case of Victoria's incompetence. But incompetence implied she knew better and made mistakes. Janet, can you get me Victoria's medical school transcripts, the ones on file at the hospital? I already tried, they're sealed, but Rebecca, she leaned forward. I have a friend who works at University of Pittsburgh's registrar office. She owes me a favor. 3 days later, Janet called me at home. Rebecca, you need to sit down for this. What did you find? Your sister never graduated from medical school. She failed out in her 3rd year. The transcripts on file at the hospital are forgeries. The room spun. Victoria had been practicing medicine for 3 years with a fake degree, treating patients, prescribing medications, making life and death decisions. Are you absolutely certain? I have the real transcripts right here. Victoria Sterling withdrawn from program, academic failure 2014. I hung up and stared at the wall. My sister, the golden child, the family success story, was a fraud, a dangerous fraud who was risking lives every day. And I was the only one who knew. I didn't sleep for 3 days after Janet's call. My sister wasn't just incompetent, she was a criminal. But knowing and proving are different things. I needed evidence that would hold up in court. Janet became my unofficial partner in the investigation. She'd worked at Millfield Community Hospital long enough to know which nurses might talk, which doctors had concerns, and how to access records without raising suspicions. Dr. Martinez in the ER has been asking questions, she told me during one of our clandestine meetings at a diner outside town. He's seen 4 patients this month who mentioned Victoria's unusual treatment approaches. What kind of unusual? She prescribed antibiotics for viral infections, missed obvious fractures. Last week, she told a diabetic patient to stop taking insulin because it was probably unnecessary. My blood ran cold. The patient didn't actually stop, did they? No, thank God. But Rebecca, she's going to kill someone if this continues. We started documenting everything systematically. Patient names, dates, specific incidents. Janet used her hospital access to pull emergency room records for anyone listing Victoria as their primary care physician. The pattern was undeniable. Look at this, Janet said, spreading files across my kitchen table. 43 patients seen in Victoria's ER in the past 6 months. 43, that's not normal for a town this size. I studied the records. Misdiagnosed strep throat that became rheumatic fever. A sprained ankle that was actually fractured. Chest pain dismissed as anxiety that turned out to be a pulmonary embolism. We need more than medical records, I said. We need proof about her credentials. That's when Janet's friend at University of Pittsburgh became crucial. Sarah Sterling, no relation, despite the name, worked in the registrar's office and had access to academic records going back decades. I could lose my job for this, Sarah said when we met at a coffee shop in Pittsburgh, but if someone's practicing medicine with fake credentials, people could die. She handed me a manila envelope. Official transcripts, the real ones? Victoria's actual academic record was devastating. She'd failed organic chemistry twice, barely passed anatomy. Her clinical rotations had been disasters, with multiple supervisors noting concerning gaps in basic medical knowledge and inability to perform fundamental procedures. The final notation was dated March 15, 2014. Student withdrawn from program due to academic failure, not eligible for readmission. How did she get fake transcripts good enough to fool a residency program? I asked. That's the scary part, Sarah said. These aren't amateur forgeries. Someone with serious computer skills and access to university systems created these. The letterhead signatures, even the paper stock matches perfectly. And it wasn't just the transcripts, she added. Someone helped her forge USMLE score reports too. Our database shows no Step 1 or Step 2 scores under her name, but her residency application included passing results. Someone on the inside must have verified them. This was a coordinated, professional job. Victoria had clearly invested significant time and money into her fraud. This wasn't a desperate last-minute decision. It was a calculated, long-term deception. I made copies of everything and stored them in 3 different locations. Then came the hardest part, confronting Victoria directly. I drove to her office on a Thursday afternoon when I knew she'd be between patients. The waiting room was full. All these people trusting their health to someone who'd never earned the right to treat them. Rebecca, Victoria's receptionist, Mrs. Kumar, smiled warmly. How nice to see you. Are you here for an appointment? I need to speak with my sister. It's urgent. Victoria emerged from her office looking annoyed. Rebecca, I'm with patients. Can't this wait? No, it can't. She led me to her private office, closing the door behind us. What's so urgent? She asked, sitting behind her desk. I placed the University of Pittsburgh transcripts in front of her. We need to talk about your medical degree. Victoria's face went completely blank. For a moment, she just stared at the papers. Then she looked up at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Where did you get these? That's not important. What matters is that you never graduated from medical school. You've been practicing medicine illegally for 3 years. Rebecca, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You failed out of med school and decided to forge your way into a career anyway. People could have died because of your incompetence. Victoria stood up slowly. People like Mrs. Patterson, the Hendricks baby. Tommy Morrison, my blood froze. She knew exactly which cases I was talking about. She'd been expecting this conversation. You've been investigating me, she said quietly. My own sister. You've been endangering patients, my own sister. Victoria walked to her window, looking out at the parking lot full of her unsuspecting patients. You have no idea what you're dealing with, Rebecca. This isn't just about me. There are other people involved, people who helped me get established here. What people? She turned back to me, and for the first time in our lives, I saw genuine fear in Victoria's eyes. People who won't appreciate you destroying their investment. Victoria's threat echoed. Walk away, Rebecca. Forget what you found. People are getting hurt, I said. You're making this into something it's not. I told her I'd report her. Her mask cracked. You've always been jealous, she snapped. I found another way to play the game. I stood to leave. She showed me footage, me and Janet exchanging files. Theft, HIPAA violations, she said. I could end your career. For a moment, panic flared, but we'd been careful. Janet never accessed full patient charts, just emergency room visit logs tied to Victoria's name. All identifying information was coded. Our records tracked diagnostic discrepancies, not private details. We documented patterns first and only brought names forward once we had cause and filed formal complaints. This was whistleblowing, not hacking. You're sick. I'm practical, forget everything, be my sister, or I'll tell Mom and Dad you're unstable and jealous. I rushed to my parents. Victoria never graduated. She's been faking everything. They didn't believe me, called it stress, delusion. I showed proof. You're destroying our family, Mom said. Get out, Dad whispered. As I left, Mom said, Victoria saves lives. I sat in my car broken. She D1 again, but not this time. I drove to the police. Game on. Detective Sarah Walsh looked skeptical as I spread my evidence across her desk at the Millfield police station. Medical fraud cases were complicated, she explained. Jurisdictional issues, professional licensing boards, federal versus state crimes. This is really a matter for the medical board, she said, pushing the transcripts back toward me. We don't typically investigate credential fraud unless there's clear criminal intent. Forging medical school transcripts isn't criminal intent. It's complicated. Your sister completed a residency program, right? Someone verified her credentials then. I felt my case crumbling. Victoria had been smart about her fraud, creating enough legitimate documentation to fool the system. The residency program had accepted forged transcripts, giving her real medical training even though her foundation was fake. Detective Walsh, patients are being harmed. Mrs. Patterson almost died from a misdiagnosed heart attack. Medical malpractice isn't criminal unless there's gross negligence. Doctors make mistakes. This isn't mistakes. This is someone practicing medicine without proper qualifications, she sighed. I'll take your statement, but honestly, the medical board is your best bet. They have the authority to investigate licensing issues. I left the police station feeling defeated. Victoria had constructed her fraud carefully, staying just inside the boundaries of civil rather than criminal violations. But the medical board investigation moved faster than I expected. Within a week, Victoria's practice was under review. Within 2 weeks, her license was suspended pending investigation. The local newspaper picked up the story, "Local doctor under investigation for credential fraud." The headline made my stomach turn. "This was my sister, my family," splashed across the front page. Victoria called me that night, screaming. "You destroyed everything, my practice, my reputation, my life. You destroyed it yourself when you decided to fake your way through medical school. I was helping people, my patients loved me. Your patients were lucky they didn't die from your incompetence. You're jealous, you've always been jealous that I was more successful than you. Victoria, you were never successful, you were a fraud." She hung up. An hour later, Mom called. "How could you do this to your own sister?" Mom's voice was cold. "The whole town is talking. Victoria is humiliated." Victoria humiliated herself. "She made mistakes, Rebecca. All doctors make mistakes. You didn't have to destroy her career." "She never had a career. She had a criminal enterprise. Don't call us again until you're ready to apologize." The media attention intensified when the state medical board released their preliminary findings. Victoria's medical school transcripts were confirmed as forgeries. Her residency program launched their own investigation, discovering they'd been fooled by sophisticated document fraud. Channel 8 News wanted interviews. The Philadelphia Inquirer ran a feature story. Small-town doctor's big lie became a cautionary tale about gaps in medical credentialing systems. I declined all media requests, but Victoria didn't. She went on the offensive, claiming she was the victim of a vindictive sister's jealousy campaign. "Rebecca has always resented my success," she told Channel 8. "She's used her position at the hospital to manufacture evidence against me. This is family dysfunction, not medical fraud." The interview was brutal. Victoria looked poised, I looked like the bitter sister, but the evidence spoke louder. The board uncovered a web of forged transcripts, residency reviews, and fake board certifications. "This is organized fraud," the chairman said. "We're referring this to federal authorities." 3 months later, Victoria was arrested at her office, caught on local news in handcuffs. Charges: medical fraud, wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy. The FBI tied her to a professional credential forging ring. Her lawyer tried a plea, but the evidence was airtight. The trial lasted 6 weeks. I testified. So did Janet and the university registrar. Victoria claimed she was deceived. No one believed it. The jury returned guilty on all counts. 8 years in federal prison, license revoked, assets seized. Outside the courthouse, I felt hollow. My family was shattered. My parents blamed me, but patients were safe. That had to mean something. 2 years after Victoria's conviction, I got a call from Dr. Williams. "Your courage helped expose a fraud network. We're nominating you for the Ethics Award." 12 fake doctors were caught. Victoria's case cracked it open. My dad finally called. "I owe you an apology." Mom was still conflicted. "She says she helped people," she whispered. "My career thrived. I became chief resident and launched a nonprofit for credential verification, the Victoria Sterling Foundation. Speaking at a medical conference, I said, 'Fraud isn't just fake degrees, it's about real people like Mrs. Patterson and the Hendricks baby.' Victoria might never change, but I had. I chose truth over loyalty, safety over silence. Not the golden child, something better. A doctor who earned it.